Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Second. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland! This is for you!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to tonight's edition of The Block, The Shot to Stop, our Cleveland Cavaliers podcast brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. We've got the trio here tonight, myself, Tim Daniel, Kevin Lynch, Skylar Webker. Unfortunately, not talking about a victory against those bums from Boston. But
damn, you are so somber on this.
oh, God, I hate the Celtics. I hate them. Hate them so much, but we'll get to that another time. So the Cavs do lose tonight to Boston at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, 112-105. Good news. Hey, they're still first number one seed in the East. They're still 40-10 through the 50 games, but they are 1-2 now against the Celtics. Take that for what you will. Guys, the score looks nicer than the game really was tonight. There was a lot of points in this game where Boston really could have ran away with this one, and Cleveland found a way to get back in it, which, hey, hats off. Great effort. But, Kevin, I'll start with you. Biggest thing that jumps out to you tonight about the Celtics and what they were able to do against Cleveland?
I was right before we went live. I was asking you about the title to this episode, which as of now is Cavs lose to Celtics despite strong comeback. I might have put Cavs lose to Celtics because Evan Mobley gets lost in the way to the arena.
Yeah.
So I was either going to go with that or Evan Mobley goes full Monstar and has his talent sucked out of him before a game against the Celtics.
Yeah, he looked like Patrick Ewing.
Long titles.
I mean,
we only got 100 characters.
They're wordy, but in seriousness, the team did not play all that well today. The first quarter in particular was really bad. Would they have 13 points at the end of the first quarter?
Dude, halfway through the quarter was 6-4. Yeah,
and Evan Mobley went 1 for 9 in the first quarter, I believe, or maybe it was 1 for 9 in the first half, 0 for 7 in the first quarter. So as much as I kid around, Evan unfortunately set the tone in a bad way tonight. I won't say one of his worst, but maybe it is one of his worst offensive games. He was really bad. I don't know if it was Porzingis and Tatum getting in his head. He seemed to miss some easy shots. And then, frankly, this is about as bad as I've seen him defensively this year tonight. So, don't want to call it one guy or blame the loss on one guy, but I think in a negative way, Evan kind of set the tone with a really bad first quarter that kind of reverberated through the whole team.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys know me, president, card-carrying member of the Evan Mobley fan club. He was bad tonight. Let's call it what it was. He was not good. He's getting beat by Dino Raja on screens. He's getting beat he can't guard Porzingis in stretches there, where Porzingis, even though he's flopping half of the game, he's still getting his buckets. It just was not his night. That happens sometimes in the league, but you expect a lot better from Evan Mobley, particularly. Skylar, your biggest takeaway from this unfortunate evening at the Rock?
The bench has made the difference. If you take a look at the box score, the only starter for Boston with a positive plus minus was Jason Tatum at +1. Their bench all positive in double digits. So the bench is what made this game. And if you look at Cavs, on the other hand, everybody outside of Sam Merrill, negative by double figures. So it's a game you kind of need Georges Niang to step up. You need Karis LeVert to step up. You need a Ty Jerome game. We got pretty much nothing out of all of those guys. And in a game against Boston, which this is likely your Eastern Conference Finals matchup, you need to have guys produce up and down the roster, not just your starters.
Yeah, you're 1,000% right. I mean, Karis tonight was non-existent offensively, 0-5 from the floor. Did have 3 assists. That was nice. You mentioned Georges Niang, really rough tonight. I mean, only took 3 shots, and that's not very Georgie Like, that's
Mhm.
not what we expect from the G-Wagon. But yeah, I mean, you bring a great point. Boston with the ability to use their bench, how deep they are. They were awesome tonight. Al Horford, a double off the bench for some reason, always seems to play really well against Cleveland. I don't know what it is about his 95-year-old self getting up and down the court. Peyton Pritchard, the most irritating player in the world to play against because he just always hits like 95 footers. It feels like.
Yeah.
Another nice night for him. But Kev, I know you're a big
Mhm.
Derek White guy when he's not playing the Cavs, so we're gonna ignore that. But he was very good tonight and really kind of seemed to be the one carrying the Celtics.
Are you admitting defeat for an argument we've been having for over a year that Derek White is a top 10 point guard in the NBA?
Hey, yeah.
If you're trying to win games, he's a winning player.
He
and
is.
he makes winning plays. And like, look, most Cavs fans don't like the Celtics at all, myself included. But like, I love that guy's game. Back to when he was with San Antonio, I just think he's a winning player. I did want to mention one other person who I thought had a bad game tonight, and that's Kenny Atkinson.
Yes, he did.
Because frankly, it's wild to say that Kenny Atkinson has over 3 games been out coached by Joe Mazzulla this year, where Joe Mazzulla was the weakest part of the Celtics team, a couple of years ago and even for part of the season last year. And Kenny, if you look at the minutes distribution tonight, doesn't make a lot of sense, where Ty Jerome has been fantastic lately. Right. I feel like with a short bench, you need to get him on the court a little bit more. This is a horrible matchup for Georges Niang. And I like Niang and everything, but his kind of old man YMCA game does not work against Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Correct.
Right. So, but you know who could at least deserve a chance to go out there and throw his body and his athleticism around? It's like Jalen Tyson, and he left him on the bench all tonight. So, and that along with like game strategy, I thought it was interesting that he went away. As much as we talked about Evan being so bad tonight, like he didn't play. Evan only played like 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. And even when Kenny was starting to press the right buttons, he went to that zone, and that's what got them back in the game. The Celtics didn't score for like 5 possessions in a row. And then he went out of it and never went back to it once the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game. So honestly, I think Kenny Atkinson is the coach of the year in the NBA, but I think he got outcoached tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It happens. It happens. It can't happen a lot, but it does happen. Skylar, I'll bring you back to the conversation with this, and I don't mean to bring this up as a panic move. So Cavs fans, believe me, I still have extreme confidence in this team. I still believe this team is very, very good and still a championship contender. But we're seeing a trend over the last 5-6 weeks where they're playing this upper echelon of competition. So the second OKC game, the 2 Rockets games, this game, none of those games went well. And so this is something we've seen now for a couple weeks now. I'm not saying I think the Cavs are screwed or they can't have a chance to beat any of these teams, because it is regular season basketball. Anything can happen in the playoffs. But their shortcomings are starting to show a little more. And that's kind of where I'm kind of really having the conversation more about, is they do have some work to do, maybe roster wise. And you're starting to see it against these higher power teams.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some roster improvements. I think we've seen the Cavs and the power of friendship kind of win us all the way here.
Sure.
But at this point, you have a team that you can go all in on, that you can make a move or two to improve this team. I think you do have to kind of, I don't want to say break the locker room vibes, but those kind of take a backseat to statistics and reality, if that makes sense. I mean, I know everybody, and then we're going to get the hate, but everybody is like, oh, why would you? We're the best team in the league, first in the East. Don't do anything. The chemistry is so good. The vibes are so good, and we've outlined that as well. But you're starting to see the league adjust to you now. They're starting to defeat the power of friendship and the Care Bear stare.
I love all those references, by the way. Just like my 80s heart is just like.
So I think, like I said, the league is catching up to Kenny Atkinson and the Cavs. And now they need to find a new way to win. And if that takes different roster pieces, that's something you just kind of have to do.
Yeah. I do, me being me, I got to say something nice, obviously. And Kev, Donovan Mitchell tonight, maybe not his greatest box score, but was Superman in stretches for the Cavs tonight. Put the team on his back, got them in this game. I mean, was back to getting his long rebounds we talk about all the time, was moving the ball really well, was hitting huge shots. Who knows? If Mobley completes that pass, that awful pass that Pritchard closes out at the end of the game and Mitchell hits a shot there, maybe we're having a different conversation right now. But Mitchell was great. Allen, awesome again tonight. So I want to make sure those two guys at least get some credit for how good they were tonight.
Yeah. Jared Allen was phenomenal. As much as any Cav, he seems to elevate his performance in these bigger games against some of the top teams in the league. We've discussed that before. He was again phenomenal tonight, all over the glass, finishing around the rim, altering shots, because as bad as the Cavs offense was in the first quarter and for a lot of the game, Celtics, it wasn't their best offensive game either. And a lot of that was Jared Allen kind of deterring them getting to the paint on a night where Evan Mobley wasn't as impactful defensively. So I thought Jared was great. I thought Donovan was very good as well, like the right amount of aggressiveness, especially like he was very aggressive when the team was struggling, trying to get him going. Obviously, I had a huge dunk in Porzingis in the first quarter.
Awesome. So good.
That every single Cavs fan thought, like, finally, here we go. And then they didn't score the next 5 possessions in a row after that. But I thought they were good. And I actually thought Garland didn't have a bad game. I thought he had his moments, but unfortunately it was not quite enough tonight.
Yeah. You mentioned, so Mitchell dunks on Porzingis and you're like, all right, here we go. And then also Allen just full on swats Porzingis at the rim. I'm like, okay, yeah, we're here to play. So Josh pops in. Josh says, Cavs can win a championship this year if they're making shots at a normal clip. Big question is how that holds up in tighter situations. And so far the answer is, and that's a fair point. I think that's a really valid point. But we've seen them win the games like this too, right? We've seen them have these games like where they've been really close. They've had to figure out a way and they've done it. So, it was Boston's night and that sucks. Believe me, I'm the last person who wants to come onto a podcast and talk about a Celtics win. But at some point you just got to acknowledge like they were better tonight and they're probably realistically big picture, probably the better team. I'm not saying the Cavs can't beat them. But it's going to be something where that's going to take probably their best days to get 4 of those in a series like that.
And I think that comes back to what Kevin and I have talked about in the past couple episodes, is that the number 1 seed in the East means way more to the Cavs than it does
absolutely
anybody else. If you get that top seed, you either face New York or Boston. Those two guys, you want those two guys to play each other in there, because it's the playoffs and anything can happen. New York could come out on the other end, and then you're kind of facing a different game plan of, facing Cat and Jalen Brunson in New York than you are Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at those teams in that play-in spot right now, Philly's a little scary, not going to lie. Don't count on them. Don't believe in them. But because, Joel Embiid's going to be hurt at some point.
They just traded today.
Yeah, that wasn't much. I mean, I'm not freaking out about them getting Quentin Grimes.
I was more of they're disassembling. Like Caleb Martin going out is way more than Quentin Grimes coming in.
That's true. But yeah, I mean, I'm not nervous about Atlanta in a series, especially because they've been awful for a while now. Chicago's done. There's just no way they're going to make a run at this. So yeah, you're right. round one around. You want this at least minimum 3 rounds in Cleveland for if you have to go to 7 games. So it does mean more to them. And I still think I still think they will end up with the 1 seed. It's going to take a really rough stretch and a really good big stretch for the Celtics, which the Celtics are definitely capable of. Don't get me wrong, but
I don't disagree with that, but at fairly late Sunday evening, it looked like the Cavs are about to have a 6.5 game lead, and now all of a sudden it's down to 4.5.
Yeah,
and with a few games before the All-Star break, they slip up. Celtics get hot. It could still be a 2 to 3 game lead at the All-Star break. Within the margin of error, basically, for lose a couple of games in a row, and then all of a sudden Boston's right there. So I think you have to be very cautious, and it's fine if you lose the game tonight if you come back and win 2 of the next 3 of the next 4.
Yeah.
Then tonight doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thankfully, the teams in the next 4 are Detroit, Washington, Minnesota, Toronto. So the bar is much lower than the defending NBA champions.
That's true. That's true. Anything we missed on tonight? Anything you would grab before we move on?
Well, the one thing I was going to bring up is, I guess what I'll turn it as a question to you all. Like, are you at the point where your confidence is a little wavered going against the top teams in the league? Because the Cavs now I believe they have a losing record against the teams in the top 3 seeds in each conference. So at what point do you worry about that you can't see, that you seem to struggle against the teams that you would face in the second, third round of the playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, that's why I brought the question up earlier to Skylar. Is that exact thing? I mean, I talked about the last couple of weeks. I will say, I think that Isaac Okoro sure would have been really nice to have tonight and those other games that he's been out in the stretch. But big picture, yeah. I mean, I think they are probably a couple bench pieces away from being at that level. Do I still think that they can put something together? Yes. I'm very confident in them. But if you look at what those teams are doing, the Cleveland, they're taking advantage of size on the backcourt. They're finding a way to move the guys out of the paint, the Mobleys and the Allens. I mean, Porzingis tonight had so many chances right now where he was pushed by himself. So yeah, I do think my confidence is wavering in them as far as being in that upper echelon, but they're still very awesome, and I still think they can put something together.
I don't think my confidence is wavered just because you're going to play whoever you play in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then you're going to play one of Western Conference team.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to have to play Houston. You're not going to have to play New York. You're not going to have to play these guys. You just kind of have to, here are the 3 that we've kind of all circled all year: Thunder, Boston, and us. That's really right now, those are the teams that you have to keep an eye on. And if you look against the Thunder, 1-1, the Celtics 1-2, with a chance to tie it up on the year here in a couple of weeks. So I wouldn't say confidence is wavered. It's like Tim said, glaring holes that need adjusted, whether roster adjusted, Kenny Atkinson adjustment, game planning adjustment. Well,
if the season ends today, let's just say for example, and everything, all that it goes chalk. Cleveland's playing Indiana in the second round. Now, a lot of people might be like, "Oh, it's Indiana." I do think Cleveland would beat them, but that would go 6. That would go 6-7. This Indiana,
they're hot right now.
Yeah, they're really good. And Tyler Halliburton's back to Tyrese Halliburton. Pascal Siakam's an all-star for a reason. So, they're going to have hard games quite a bit there for a stretch. I mean, that's what the playoffs are all about, though. That's why you get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much that you're right. You would only play one Western Conference team in the playoffs. I agree with that. It's more. It's more like, would you feel better if they had the exact same record, but they were, say, 8-2 against the top teams in the league, and they just happen to drop some games against lower rate team. I mean, you get frustrated because you'd say it's lack of focus and everything, but the majority of their losses this year have been, to the better teams in the league, and they've been in very frustrating fashion. I will say that tonight was a very frustrating game. The first Boston game was very frustrating. The loss to the Thunder, I let especially the first Houston game. It's a 1-point game going either way and everything, but it just seems like I think it's more so. It's not just the losing; it's the fact that they seem to play so much more inefficient offense against the better teams in the league. And tonight was a great example of that in the first quarter, first half. They looked like a JV high school team running offense.
Yeah, it for sure looked like if you go down to the YMCA and you walk in the gym and just watch all the old guys out there playing, you're like, oh, that's what the kind of Cavs resembled tonight. So, Kev, I
YMCA references tonight.
buddy. It's a somber mood around the block. It's about to stop tonight. All right. So we're going to have some Celtics jerk face McGee fan in these comments tonight saying stupid stuff to us. So hats off. Like I said, hats off to the Celtics. I mean, they did their thing tonight. I hate them very much. Jaylen Brown is quickly becoming one of my least favorite basketball players. Quickly. Yeah. I don't think
don't
necessarily think he's a clean player, to be honest. But I don't want to have some cry about it pop up in our chat, so I won't go too far into that. I wouldn't go as far to say, there was a certain 5-letter word Joakim Noah said to LeBron that really pushed some nerves. I'm not going to go that far, but yeah, not really loving the Jaylen Brown experience right now. Kristaps Porzingis is a total flopper too. So, all right. Anyway. Yeah, that is my haterade, guys. I am speaking out of haterade today. I'm allowed to do it at some point.
But and we'll move on of this. This is the last point. The Celtics didn't play that well tonight, and they still controlled the game. That's where it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. If the Celtics came out and hit 60% of their threes and were just on fire and they beat you. You move on. The fact that the Celtics, looking at here, they shot 40% from the field, 35% from three, basically under their averages across the board offensively. And frankly, they still controlled the game, sans a late attempt by the Cavs to get back in it.
So Josh brings up here a little catch-22. Cam Johnson probably eases things up on the efficiency versus top-tier teams, but doesn't move the needle a whole lot defensively. I don't want to get too deep into this because it is deadline time, and obviously you're going to see this team is interested in this guy. This team has expressed interest in this guy a lot, but there was some reporting today from USA Today that one name that I think would be a really nice fit for the Cavs that was expressed is a guy who already killed the Cavs twice this year, and the Atlanta Hawks, DeAndre Hunter. So what does express interest mean? I don't know. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds of how does DeAndre Hunter help the Cavs? He certainly does. But I do think if there's a short list of guys that can really help the Cavs get better, I think he's on that list. Skylar, what do you think?
For sure. I think he's in that list. He's making 22 this year, so it would cost you, the people I had in my head were probably Niang or Okoro, and then Levert to make the money work. Under control for the next couple of years, and then you can kind of refill your bench and off of the buyout market. I like the move. I want it to happen. I think it's much more realistic and safe than the Cam Johnson, just because that's the marquee name on the market. That's the guy that you're going to have to give up assets and picks and stuff for.
Skylar, Kevin Durant's on the market. I don't know if you've read the news lately.
Well, apparently the Warriors are calling everybody about everybody. So
did they call for Mitchell? I didn't see that report, but I wouldn't be shocked.
They called about every single All-Star.
Hey, man, scared money don't make money.
Yeah. I really like DeAndre Hunter. I think you would fit in well in the team and provide a lot of what they need. I think might be a little. I think he's a little bit overpaid, and he's very injury prone. Which, frankly, you're bringing in a guy to be insurance for Okoro and Wade
Right.
because they're injury prone.
Yeah.
So that makes me a little nervous, and it makes me nervous because if you bring in DeAndre Hunter, Cam Johnson, someone of like with that kind of contract, that's your last big move, unless you're willing to trade one of the big four. Right. And so like, is he the right guy to make that last move with? Maybe. And I would be happy if they did it. All that said, I want to say don't read any reports unless it's a select few of NBA guys and it's coming through. And I'll give you a great example. Today, I saw an article about how they get a win-win trade because the Lakers now need a center after trading AD would be straight up trade Jared Allen for LeBron James.
I saw that.
So, and this is on the heels of multiple reports of the Cavs should go for Jimmy Butler, things like that. Do take everything with a grain of salt. Nowadays.
Does Paul George make sense in Cleveland? My column.
Yeah, right.
Torrey Craig
for the DeAndre Hunter though. Here's an idea. I don't know if the Hawks would do it. You'd have to attach picks and everything to it. Karis LeVert and Dean Wade would make the money work. So you keep Okoro, you keep Niang, which according to Sam Amico, the Cavs have labeled him as untouchable, which feels super irresponsible.
I like the irresponsible is like the perfect word for that.
So you keep your core, you keep Max Strus, you have LeVert, who's a free agent at the end of the year, and Dean Wade, who we've seen has struggled to stay on the floor. Do those move the needle to get DeAndre Hunter, and then you kind of get some guys in the buyout market to replenish?
I'm nervous.
It might, but the market's so depressed right now.
Yeah,
you look at like Luka Doncic and De'Aaron Fox were both traded for combined less draft picks than the Knicks gave up for Mikal Bridges 6 months ago,
and it was their own draft picks. They were getting their picks back.
So I think. I think the market is reset as far as what the return is for some of these guys. I will tell you, if I was the Cavs, I wish I would have known Caleb Martin was on the market because I think he is about as good a fit, and DeAndre Hunter might even be a better fit, but he makes less than half of what DeAndre Hunter did.
Yeah,
you could slide him in and still stay under luxury tax, or have another move that you could do with that. So. Honestly, that was the biggest thing I was bummed about is like I didn't know he was on the market, and the fact that they got him for Quentin Grimes tells me the price was probably pretty reasonable.
Yeah. I've said this in the past, and I don't want to go too deep in the weeds on this, like I said, but I've said in the past, I think Torrey Craig will be a really nice backup big for the Cavs. He's officially a free agent. So rim running big.
Too.
He's a DFA from the 10th place team in the East. Like I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying he wouldn't be a nice insurance policy for the bench, but I don't think you would count on him for regular contract.
Oh, he's a vet min for sure. He's a Marcus Morris, but
yeah.
All right. So that brings us to tomorrow night. The Cavs are back on the floor, have a chance to kind of get the bad taste out of their mouth when they go visit old Little Caesars Arena, which I hear is beautiful, to take on the 25-25 Detroit Pistons. Obviously a team the Cavs beat twice tonight. They see old friend JB once again. Just saw these two teams play early last week where Cleveland took care of business and was really good in that game, regardless of who the opponent was. So Kev, obviously coming off tonight, you can say a lot of very easy things about what you're going to see the Cavs do better. Obviously the competition kind of drops down a little bit as well in the Pistons from the Celtics. Not that the Pistons are bad. They're just very reliant on one guy to win them games, and he's really been good at it. So what are you kind of looking to kind of see as the biggest quick turnaround game?
I mean, the most obvious is like, how do they match up with Cade Cunningham? Because they played the Pistons size. Cade had a huge game the first matchup. Second game, he got his numbers, but they did a pretty good job defensively. But typically he is the type of player that the Cavs struggle against, size for a perimeter guy with as much skill as he has. And I think he's phenomenal, but like, The biggest thing for me is like, can you get the bad taste out of your mouth? Can Evan Mobley come have a good game tomorrow night?
Right.
Like, is that and get you feeling good, because you're just starting to feel good about Evan again after a few so-so performances, being out a few games. Like, we were just starting to hype him up. He's looking like, how he was, most of the season here, last 2 to 3 games. And then you have kind of tonight's stinker. So I think that's what I see, how they match up against Cade. And I'd love to see Evan with a 20-10 game tomorrow.
Yeah, I would too. They do have a Harris twin they got to deal with tomorrow. So those darn Harris twins. Those darn Thompson twins. Sorry, I was looking at the Tobias Harris. I was like, what the hell?
I was like, Harris twins.
I was gonna say.
Ron and Don Harris, don't you know? Asard Amen Harris. Lack of sleep. But yeah, so you're absolutely right there. Skylar, Tobias Harris is going to be guarding Evan Mobley a lot of this game. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Let's be real here. So,
yeah, I think for the Cavs, it's more than just tomorrow against the Pistons. I think you try to win out to the All-Star break.
And you can.
Yeah.
Up teams in Minnesota. So
I don't disagree. I don't like because the Cavs have been so good this year. It's really easy to be like put in higher and higher expectations on them. If they went 3-1 in these 4, I would be super happy. 4-0, obviously great. But if they go 3-1, they should go into the break with at least a 4 or 5 game lead in the East. And I think that's, a good place to be, especially as Skylar pointed out, against a fairly, I wouldn't say easy, but winnable next 4 games.
Yeah.
I want them to win out because Boston's next 4 games, Dallas, who've had their hearts ripped out. I don't know what their season is, but then New York, Miami, San Antonio. Those are teams that can beat Boston. Mm-hmm. I mean, anybody can beat Boston, as we've seen, but those feel like closer games than what the Cavs are facing.
Yeah, God, you mentioned somber. We mentioned having a somber night. Have you been to the Dallas Mavericks subreddit the last few days? Oh my God,
there's poor people.
Yeah, gosh, there's poor people. But all right. So with that being said, anything you guys want to touch on before we get out of here? Anything else come to mind?
We're still first. Still first in these. Come on, guys.
Yeah. The last thing I would say, because I know it's the two of you tomorrow, so I won't be on again before the trade deadline. Look out for, if people haven't noticed, in these big Luka Doncic, De'Aaron Fox deals, they almost always have to be a 3-team deal, and that is a product of the new CBA and the aprons and everything.
Right.
So that is to say, the Cavs not only have a chance to make a big move for something like that, they could do something really smart around the edges by being that opportunistic third team. I mean, Utah Jazz just got 2 free second-round picks for just taking on a salary, right? And the Cavs could do their version of that, where they take on, a good role player that another team can't afford and has to move to make a deal work, make a Kevin Durant deal work or something like that. So as things actually start to happen if any more things happen in the trade deadline, look out for, who the third team is in these trades. Yeah.
But could Kevin Durant fit on the Cavs?
My column tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's basically what The Athletic is now. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Yes, sucky night, but you have a chance to get back tomorrow and do your thing and get back to being the Cleveland Cavaliers. So on behalf of Kevin Lynch and Skylar Webker, this is Tim Daniel. Thank you guys for hanging out tonight. We definitely appreciate it. As always, check us out on whether you're checking us on the first time on YouTube, give us a nice subscription. If you're checking us on your podcast app of choice, whether it's Spotify, Google, or Apple, give us a nice 5-star review. We'll keep turning these out. We're going to be here each and every day. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you soon.
Go Cavs.